Again, my name is Dr. Carole Lieberman, sitting in for John Tobacco, and we are going to continue on Liquid Lunch. When we come back, I will tell you a little, talk about, actually, it's perfect run-in, lead-in from Joe, because I'm going to talk to you about what I call the Wall-E syndrome, and about what has become of us and how it relates to all of the chaos that's going on in the world. So stay tuned. Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Carole Lieberman, sitting in for John Tobacco. I'm America's psychiatrist, and I'm going to talk to you right now about something that I have been thinking about as a psychiatrist for quite some time, actually since 2008. But the world's circumstances have been changing to the extent that it has become ever more accurate, what I'm going to be talking about, and that is the Wall-E syndrome. Now, I know you don't know what I am talking about, but think about it. Do you remember seeing in 2008, or perhaps you've seen it after that, a movie called Wall-E? It's WALL-E, and it's about a little robot. The premise of the story was that Earth became so cluttered with trash that humans couldn't live on it anymore. Now, this isn't going in an environmental or climate change direction, believe me. But so humans had to leave Earth, and they went up to a kind of spaceship, and on this, it was an animated movie. And on this type of spaceship, people were on a kind of Disneyland type ride, an amusement park ride. And you saw people going endlessly, because the point was that we didn't know when humans were going to be able to go back to Earth. So they were endlessly going on this ride. And they were sitting in cars, like, the teacup rides, for example, that kind of thing, where you sit. In this case, there were two people who could sit in each of these kinds of teacups, and you got fed. You were brought food, and you were fed endlessly with junk food, hamburgers and milkshakes and French fries, all the junk food that you would want. At the same time, there was a screen in front of you on this teacup. And you could watch television endlessly. You could watch the internet. You were being amused. So in other words, you were getting fat and amused. You were amusing yourselves to death. And when I saw that, and people were getting fatter, and and they never had to get off this teacup, because that's where they lived, on this teacup. And we are getting closer and closer to this scene in the movie. I mean, it was an unforgettable scene to me, and I think to a lot of people. And it was prophetic. And because when you think about how we are now, we have been stuck in our homes on lockdown, and we, are perhaps getting out of that. But we certainly have been getting fatter, as we have been endlessly, stuffing ourselves in lockdown, and we've been endlessly amusing ourselves with television or the internet or video games or whatever. And now we have cars that are coming about that I think are really a bad invention. Automatic cars, self-driving cars. So those are going to be the teacups. So we are going into a Wall-E world. And so I call it Wall-E syndrome, because we become, some of us, I know some of you are going to disagree with me, but many of us are becoming mindless, fat, lazy slobs that were predicted by the movie Wall-E. Now, why is this bad? Well, first of all, I mean, obviously it's bad to be a fat, lazy, mindless slob, but why is this particularly bad? Oh, and let me add the final, well, I don't know if it's final, but an extra part to this story is that now that so many people have been receiving checks from the government, such that they make more money if they stay home from working rather than going to work. That is the final, or perhaps the final. I mean, there's always something more and worse, but it's perhaps the final straw or nail in the coffin. And the reason why this is really bad, particularly bad, is because we are at a time now when we have to be more alert and more active than ever to try to do something about the things that are happening in our world. The bad things that are happening in our world, from the riots that we had all last year to now we're going to have, and I'm very concerned about this. I'm an American Jew, and needless to say, I love Israel. I've been to Israel, and needless to say, I'm very upset with what is happening in Israel. And this morning, or even the last couple of days, I guess, but I particularly saw it this morning. Black Lives Matter has gotten into this whole matter in a number of ways, talking to Biden. It was the squad talking one-on-one to Biden, getting him to be on the side of the Palestinians. Black Lives Matter has in fact announced that they support the Palestinians. Now, I know that so many people think that Black Lives Matter is just a wonderful organization that protects Black lives and rails against discrimination. Well, I am certainly against discrimination of Blacks, of Asians, of any ethnic group or religion or whatever. But to say that you are supporting this, so they're saying they support the Palestinians, which means also they have no clue about history. Their excuse was that they were against anyone who comes and settles lands that don't belong to them or whatever. That they don't know history. That is not what is happening, and so any organization, so their true colors are coming out, and any organization that supports terrorists, because essentially they are supporting Hamas, which is a terrorist organization. It has been on the terrorist, on the list of terrorist groups from the United States, and they are asking Biden, and Biden has actually gone to Netanyahu and asked him to sort of calm down the protecting Israel. I mean, Israel didn't start this fight. The whole thing this time around, well, Israel doesn't start fights with terrorists groups or surrounding them, and they didn't start this one. And any group like BLM that supports Palestinians and supports Hamas, that means that they are a terrorist group themselves, which actually many people have already known. So you may well know that. But I'm just very concerned because it's not just about Palestinians in Israel. It has now spilled over to the United States. There are riots starting. There has been one in Los Angeles already, and there are other ones there, just like Black Lives Matter incited riots in regard to George Floyd. They are starting to do the same thing now in regard to Jews. So in Los Angeles, a bunch of Palestinians or pro-Palestinians went to a restaurant and attacked Jewish people sitting outside the restaurant, just like they have been doing for the past year, attacking just white people. They weren't necessarily looking for Jews before, but attacking white people sitting at restaurants outdoors. So this, I'm trying to give you a red flag warning that this is a major danger for America, not just race wars, but now there's a war against an anti-Semitic war against American Jews. Thank you for listening to and watching Liquid Lunch. I'm Dr. Carole Lieberman, sitting in for John Tobacco.